The Washington football team is changing their name, and, in the wake of the George Floyd protest, there's now this massive corporate effort to have other companies do the same. And there's a reason for this. The reason is there are real injustices in this country and with this system. And, somebody like me, and I think most people, would like to substantively address these problems. But what you get from corporate America is they don't really care about substantively addressing it. Oh, but they will give you a heaping dose of nonsense symbolism. So we've seen a lot of that recently, whether it's, Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben. The Golden Girls had some episodes pulled down because in one of the episodes, the girls were wearing these mud face masks or something. And so I guess Hulu or whoever looked at that and they were like, oh, that could maybe be misinterpreted as blackface. Pull it down. And so they pulled it down. And by the way, every time they do something like this, they wait and look around for applause. Like, that's the whole point. They're like, okay, let's try to be super woke. And then they do something silly like that. And then they look around and go, you guys like us now? Do we get our social brownie points now? And it's so insufferable. It's so insufferable. And are there instances of symbolic things that do matter? Well, yeah, I think there are some symbolic things that do matter. For instance, I don't think on any public land, federal or state, you should fly a Confederate flag. Very simply because the whole point of that Confederate flag, that wasn't even the original Confederate flag. The Confederate flag that you and I think of as the Confederate flag, that literally came to prominence during the Civil Rights Movement as a giant middle finger to desegregation. So the whole point of that was, hey, let's say black people need to know their place. So when you have public land, that means effectively you have black Americans funding the flying of a flag that represents their official oppression. So that's unacceptable. That's beyond unacceptable. Take down the Confederate flag on all public lands, okay? Private land, you can't do anything about it. That's part of freedom. If somebody wants to be the most hateful asshole on the planet, they have every right to do so. There's just nothing we can do about that. But my point is, are there symbolic things that matter? Of course. But do the symbolic things ever matter as much as the really substantive things? No. And what do I mean by that? What do I mean by substantive things? Well, we have a racist drug war in this country. But the drug war is overwhelmingly used to disproportionately crack down on communities of color. They admitted that. The Nixon White House admitted that. They said, yeah, we wanted to take the hippie white people, but the people of color, more importantly, and criminalize the lifestyle because we knew they'd never be our political allies. They admitted it. So that's why you see a situation where black people and white people smoke weed at a similar rate. Black people are 4 times more likely to get arrested for that. White people are more likely to sell drugs. Black people are more likely to get arrested for selling drugs. You have gigantic disparities when it comes to implementation of the death penalty and also mandatory minimums. Now, again, if some people say, well, what are you talking about? It's just differences in crimes. No! When you have the same crime, it is much more likely a black person gets a harsher sentence. And it's much more likely a black person and a white person commit the same crime. The black person is more likely to get the death penalty. These are the real substantive problems in this country. See, the point is, when you talk about systemic racism, it means you have to address the system. So, in other words, no amount of stupid, neoliberal, corporatist, identitarian bullshit is going to change anything. So, in other words, Robin DiAngelo and her white fragility hustle, that's nothing but a scam. It's a way for Robin DiAngelo and all of her acolytes to get wealthy by teaching these seminars and telling white people, hey, you're a piece of shit, right? You better shut up and just treat the black people as if they're better than you, and you need to acknowledge you're inherently racist. So, and by the way, the studies show that approach, the neoliberal corporate identitarian nonsense, if anything, it creates a backlash effect. And it makes white people more reactionary. You want to know why? Because if you tell somebody, hey, you're a piece of shit because of your skin color, turns out they get a little defensive. That's what happens. So anyway, now we have, you're probably wondering, what the hell, why is Trader Joe's over Kyle's shoulder? Well, now we have, a new front in this battle over symbolism. The Hill reports the following. An online petition calling on Trader Joe's to remove its racist branding and packaging from its stores has gathered more than 1,500 signatures as of Sunday. The Change.org petition, created 2 weeks ago, requests the grocery store chain to follow other food companies' moves to adjust their branding and packaging to avoid racial stereotypes. The petition specifically calls out the international food items that are named Trader Ming's, Trader Jose, Trader Giotto's, Arabian Joe, and Trader Joe's, however you say that. Quote, "We demand that Trader Joe's remove racist branding and packaging from its stores," the petition reads. "The grocery chain labels some of its ethnic food with modifications of Joe that belies a narrative of exoticism that perpetuates harmful stereotypes." Briannis Bedell, 17, a rising high school senior, told the New York Times that the products are racist because they exoticize other cultures and present Joe as the default normal. So Trader Joe's immediately was like, okay, fine, we'll get rid of all that and we'll just rename the packaging. We'll call it all Trader Joe's or whatever. So now, listen, I don't want to do what the right does, which is oftentimes they blow up these issues as if it's a bigger thing than it really is. So in other words, you only had 1,500 signatures as of Sunday on this. So somebody created this and only 1,500 people signed it. Guys, I could, make a petition about something absurd and I could get 30,000 people to sign it in a day. So it's not in other words, this is not something that's actually a giant percentage of the American population is saying, change the packaging on Trader Joe's, good sir, yes! That's not true. It's a tiny fringe of people who are obsessed with silly things, and they went down this path. However, let's keep it real. When stories like this come out, it is a giant gift to the right. Why? Because they get to turn around and say, would you look at how silly the left is? This is all they think about. This is all they talk about. This is what they're obsessed with. And they call everything racist. So it feeds that. The reason why it's such a powerful story for the right is it feeds that stereotype. It feeds that narrative ideally. Because you know what? When Trader Joe's made all of those products and they named them, so you had Trader Ming's, Trader Jose, Trader Giotto's, Arabian Joe, and Trader Joe San, whatever. When they did that, you know why they did that? They did that because they were trying to be inclusive, diversified, and woke. So do you understand? They were trying up front to be inclusive, diversified, and woke. And the backlash, admittedly from a small number of people, but the backlash was, oh my God, you're not being inclusive, diversified, and woke. Those names are offensive. See, that's the point about this whole debate. You can spin almost anything to seem wrong, to seem bigoted. You really can. And it goes back to a point that I remember making in the context of a different story a few years ago. You can have cultural appropriation and be upset about that, or you can have multiculturalism. Because it's the same thing. Multiculturalism means we have a melting pot of all these different cultures and there's mutual respect. And it's a melting pot, and we all end up coming together, and there are people who were originally part of different cultures who intermingle and become friends and adopt different parts of each other's culture, and that's a positive thing, right? But some people would say, no. If one culture adopts some practices from another culture, well, that's cultural appropriation, actually. So that's not okay. That's racist. So which one is it? Which one is it? Would you rather have no cultural appropriation, or would you rather have a multicultural melting pot where we all come together and learn to respect each other and learn to adopt parts of other people's cultures so we expand our horizons and we're all one big American family that's a mix of all these different previous cultures, which you can only pick one. And oftentimes what happens is, regardless of which one you go with, you'll have criticism and they'll say, well, that's racist that because you're culturally appropriating, or it's racist because you didn't want to diversify and be with other cultures and adopt aspects of the culture. Which is it? And this is, every time I read a story like this is what pops in my head. There's no There's no way around it. There's no way out of it. Because, it would have been just as easy. Let's say Trader Joe's didn't have these names on products. Somebody could have created a petition and said, hey, why are you not respecting other cultures? Why do you only have Trader Joe's stuff? You couldn't name something Trader Jose's? Why? Why are you doing that? And see, it could be anything. It could be anything. Which again comes back to the main point. As long as we're battling over the symbolism stuff, we're never going to substantively fix the system. As long as we're battling over symbolism, we're never going to substantively fix the system. Which means I'm here to beg and scream and yell at everybody on the left, wise up! Let's be freaking strategic here. Let's not immediately self-disenfranchise ourselves by picking battles like this. It's a hell of a lot easier to get people to like you when you're talking about the substantive issues, when you're talking about ending the drug war, when you're talking about freeing the nonviolent drug offenders, when you're talking about ending the death penalty, because 4% of the time we kill the wrong people, and the death penalty is carried out in a racist way. It's a lot easier to get people to like you when you're focused on serious issues like wages and healthcare and ending corruption and ending wars. You want to talk about something that's racist? How about all of our wars in the Middle East? We killed minimum 200,000 Iraqi civilians. Minimum 200,000. If that was Sweden, do you think we would have valued those 200,000 lives more? I think so. So maybe there's a tinge of racism when it comes to carrying out that war and not caring about the consequences. That's a substantive conversation. That's substance. And the goal is end the wars. There's no hope if this is the stuff that sidetracks everybody. Now, again, I want to be clear, it's only 1,500 people who signed it, so I don't want to blow it up to make it seem like it's a bigger thing than it is. It is a smaller percentage, but my point is, if somebody brings this up, you have to be willing to call bullshit when something is bullshit. Don't walk on eggshells just because you think, this is the position I'm supposed to take because I'm a lefty, and so I think this is the left-wing position, so yeah, Trader Joe's is racist. Don't be a parody of yourself. Don't be an idiot. Be intelligent. Use your mind. Be strategic. Okay? If something is bullshit, call it bullshit. And by the way, that'll also make it so you get a lot more converts to your side and to your perspective. So anyway, here we are again, more culture war nonsense. And I fear that in the wake of this horrendous moment with the George Floyd killing, police brutality, with the economic crash, with the pandemic, I don't want to waste this moment on stupid, symbolic culture war bullshit. I want real change, but apparently it's so easy for people to get diverted into the culture war and waste all their energy there.